Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to season 2 of the NFC West Roundtable. As you are coming in, please do us a favor, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, and sound off in the chat and let us know what team you are currently representing. Let's go on ahead and bring in our panelists based off of how they finished in the division last year. Starting off with our good friend, Mike, the AZ sports fan. How you doing, my friend? His mic is muted, my friend. Look at that. Look at that, man. What's up?
Sorry, Rusty. It's been a while. No, but I'm good, man. I'm really good. It's a brand new year. I know last year when we were talking, it was very, very downer for the Arizona Cardinals, but brand new year, rocking the merch already, man. I'm super, super excited about this year with Marvin Harrison Jr. and everything that's going on. I've been to a lot of training camps, so just on the up and up for the Cardinals.
Man, it is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful thing. We have to welcome Jake back, our Rams rep. What's going on, my friend? How's life?
Life is good, man. I've been really tied down, obviously, covering the New York Yankees, but I've also been covering the Rams, and I'm very much looking forward to the NFL season and, of course, being back with you guys. So pretty excited.
Yeah, man, most definitely. I was just saying that I would love to be a fly on the wall with your day-to-day because there's literally no time for my man to be covering each and every single sports team. Watch out for his NHL channel coming in just 3 months as well, folks.
Oh, definitely
might as well. And then the winner himself, Jesse, what's going on, man? You've been going through some stress, my friend, for the past couple of days. I can tell you that.
Hasn't been easy. I can see that Mike was about as prepared to be live on the show as the Cardinals are to win the division, which is fantastic. So, yeah, listen, I'm excited to be back. This crew, I love this crew, man. I love that we can joke. I love that we have a good time. We're also, I feel like, very grounded and realistic into the expectations for not only our team, but the opposing teams. I think we got a great group here at the NFC West, and we're going to do some awesome things for Roundtable Sports this year. I can't wait.
It is going to be a fantastic season. Already seeing some of the usual faces right in the chat already. Folks, like we said, smash that like button for us. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. We are currently waiting on Steezy to get in. He is our Seahawks representative for the day. Norb is on vacation. You will see him next week. So have no fear, Seahawks fans. You will be represented here in only a couple of minutes. But I do need to give a giant shout out right to today's sponsor. And it just so happens to be quite literally the best sportsbook on the face of the planet. And that just so happens to be BetUS. Folks, BetUS is the place to go for all sports. I'm talking money lines. I'm talking point spreads. I'm talking over-unders, all the way down to player props. And the best thing about it is that they are matching 125% of your first 3 deposits all the way up to $2,000. They have all these divisional odds so far, folks, and I'm sure all of us are interested to see what they look like. Maybe they change now that Brandon Aiyuk is all but a Pittsburgh Steeler here within the next 24 hours.
Chill out.
But as you can see, we have all of our odds right here on BetUS. They have win totals. They have alternate spreads, the entire 9. And even for you degenerates that might want to put a little bit of money down on the preseason games, I wouldn't recommend it, but if you're down, do it. I know I'm going to. BetUS, #1 sports book on the face of the planet. Definitely go check that out. Link is in description. All right, guys. As promised, I had a couple of topics aligned for each and every single one of you that I thought would stir up some interesting debate. And since this is very timely news, I want to give Jesse the floor. And I want him to update us on the overall Brandon Aiyuk situation when it comes down into it. Now, talk briefly on what you are hearing, what is ultimately going to happen. And then I also hear this narrative saying that regardless, the San Francisco 49ers are the exact same team. It does not move the needle one way or the other based off of your final record prediction. Still a very good squad. Would you be nervous at all if the 49ers entered this season without him? But start off with a scenario and dive on in. Talk to us.
First of all, it absolutely moves the needle. Now, I think that there is a saving grace in that the 49ers always make some sort of trade near the trade deadline. So they still have room to improve and grow this team. I think there are some areas where this team is certainly better than they were last year, and maybe that can make up for a loss of Brandon Aiyuk. But to say that this team is every bit as good without Brandon Aiyuk, just flatly not on this team, that's a flat out lie. Everybody knows that. He's a very, very, very good player. That being said, what's happening right now, I'm not going to just go based off of what has been out there for everybody to see. I'm going to give you a timeline of everything that I've heard and where we are today. I heard at the end of June that the 49ers and Aiyuk had a deal in place, other than they had to fine-tune some of the small jargon within that deal. Well, when it came time to fine-tune that, that's when the deal fell apart. The 49ers essentially said, this is our offer, take it or leave it. Brandon Aiyuk became disgruntled. At that time, he asked for a trade, which happened just a few short weeks ago. And then, since then, last Wednesday is when talks really started to heat up. First, it was the Cleveland Browns. To my knowledge, Brandon Aiyuk has turned down going to the Browns. Then a team that nobody's talked about is the Panthers. He turned that down as well. And here we are. It sounds like it's between the Patriots potentially and the Steelers. The Steelers don't have an offer on the table that the 49ers are willing to accept. He doesn't want to be a Patriot necessarily. And the 49ers aren't willing to budge on their contract offer. And so right now, everything's at a stalemate. I mean, I could see every scenario playing out from he's here on the 5th-year option to they eventually work out a deal, or he's a Pittsburgh Steeler or New England Patriot for all I know. I think everything is very much up in the air at this point, and nothing is set in stone. I hope they get something done very quickly. No matter what that is, let's figure it out. The season's here. You're either moving on with him or you're moving on without him. Let's get that figured out and let's get this thing done. So that's where they're at.
So, Jake, what do you feel about this overall situation? Does that change your thoughts on the 49ers as far as the projection and just your overall take on the overall situation?
Yeah, I think you have to look at it. I mean, there's no way the Rams are sitting there like praying Aiyuk leaves. He's a fantastic player, probably a top 10 receiver, excellent route runner and all, but this is a great team regardless. So they're not in, this is also a league where you don't have guys like, oh yeah, I hope he's gone. Like, you always want to play the best. And, I don't think it's really that, but I also don't think the Rams would mind not having to play, against Brandon Aiyuk. I think the question remains, who ends up replacing him? Because I think a trade with the Steelers would probably be for like a James Daniels and probably a bunch of picks. And I think a trade with, say, the Browns, for instance, although it seems like he doesn't want to go there, but it would be for like Amari Cooper. So, do they end up getting that? I don't want to say, replacement, because replacing Brandon Aiyuk isn't, something you can just do so easily. I do believe he is the best receiver on this team. I think he's a lot better than Deebo Samuel. As far as a pure receiver, I think Samuel, we can all talk about how well he is with the ball in his hands and just an all-around offensive playmaker. But this is a significant loss for a team that, essentially is trying to win it all before they have to pay that rookie quarterback contract. They have to actually pay Brock Purdy what he's worth. So I do think, a lot goes into that. And this is not an ideal scenario for the 49ers. I know also Trent Williams was holding out. So, they got to kind of figure those things out. But, I don't think it necessarily makes them a team that's not, a playoff contender or whatever. But I do think it hurts them significantly, especially if they can't go out and get like an Amari Cooper or somebody like that to replace him right away.
So what do you got on that, Mike? From an Arizona Cardinals fan's perspective.
Yeah, I love it. I love the drama that's happening in the 49ers. It's wonderful. I'm glad it's not happening to us, but it's just such a debacle right now. It's just crazy. I've chimed into a few of your streams, Justin. I agree. I think what you guys use, bungled or it was bad. The situation is bad. And when they drafted Ricky, right, whatever you guys want, Purdy or whatever you call him, it also kind of felt like it, man. This Brandon Aiyuk was almost kind of felt like he was on the way out. I love this drama. I'm for it. I think he's as good as gone as well. I do think you guys are a playoff team, but I do think that Brandon Aiyuk also is a big focal point to that team, that it's going to be Super Bowl or not, right? And I think that's what's more important here for you guys, right? To the Super Bowl, right? As opposed to just playoffs, because you guys need to get Brandon Aiyuk and keep him. But honestly, the way that this relationship is, it's already soured as is, and I'm for it. Like, I absolutely love it. I truly am. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, the Cardinals are going to strike blood, but this team that you guys have in the San Francisco 49ers is great. But this move, if he gets taken away out, I don't know if Super Bowl's in the running anymore for y'all. I'm just going to come out and say it. Playoffs, definitely. NFC West, probably. You guys still have a really, really good team. But Brandon Aiyuk, I do agree, is the best wide receiver on your roster. I like Debo and what he does and what he offers to you guys. But at the end of the day, it's Brandon Aiyuk. So, like I said, I'm for the drama. I think he's as good as gone, that the relationship's as soured as it gets. I'm glad that we're not the one dramaed in NFC West, because it's not just that. You guys have to deal with your Trent Williams as well with currently going on. So I love the implosion. That's all I got to say.
So, hey, with Jesse, here's my question. What do you think he wants, right? Like, what do you think he wants? Because it's funny, when it comes to the Cleveland Browns, I'm not sure of the specifics of what was offered, but I'm sure that he's offering more money than the $14 million that he would have gotten over in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And those teams are going to be competitive. And it's head scratching that, like, he's heavily considering the New England Patriots. Is this just seeming like a thing where it's just winning and being a part of a contender is just not on top of his priorities and he's just trying to get the bag? Like, what is it with this receiver?
No, I think his preference would be to be in San Francisco and get the money he feels like he's worth. From what I understand, the Patriots are by far offering the most amount of money. So if it was just a money play, he'd be gone, because the Patriots are, what they're willing to offer him is not being close to being matched by anybody else. But he wants to play for a winning team. And that's where the Steelers, from what I understand, they're willing to offer him basically what he's looking for, maybe a little bit less, but much more than what the 49ers are willing to offer. And he feels like they're a good team that can win some games as well. And so that kind of fits both needs. But I think his preference would certainly be, let's stay in San Francisco, let's get the money that I feel like I'm worth. The Niners just aren't willing to go there, at least haven't been thus far. And so that's where the stalemate comes in.
Mm-hmm. Now, say that there is a stalemate and that he doesn't end up finding a trade partner and he's stuck in San Francisco. Is he going to be holding in this year, you think? Is that going to be something? First off, would you want that in your locker room? Number two, would he even see the field? Would he play at all? Or do you think that he'd say, oh, I have a paper cut, I have to be out for 4 weeks?
Well, I mean, technically he has to amass 6 weeks to have an accrued season. But anything outside of that, I think is up in the air. Here's what I will say, though. I felt like Brandon Aiyuk was the type of person that would hold out until he didn't when training camp came around. I'm like, okay, well, maybe all of that is like big bad wolf, you're puffing your chest out. But when push comes to shove, you're about your money, even if it's only $14 million compared to what you want. You're not willing to let that walk out the door either. So I have a feeling that he probably would play, but I can't guarantee that.
Yeah. Well, folks, definitely stay tuned for some more updates on the Brandon Aiyuk situation. I feel like that this has been a storyline since the Super Bowl, and it's borderline getting annoying having to bring it up every single week. I can only imagine what Jesse has to deal with since February. I'm sure he's just ready for the pain to be ended at this point.
Let's get it over with. But the good news is, and I see a Jets fan in the chat, King Lowski, shout out to you. The good news is we have the Jets week 1, and there's nothing like a get right game than a shitty franchise like the New York Jets, right? So that is the good news. That team's right around the corner. So that should be a good way to start out the season. You know what I mean?
With Brandon Aiyuk and all, with or without him, the Jets, the trash talk is over here. Shout out to King Lowski. He is a member of the AFC East. One of these days, we're going to bring him on for a little call-in session. I'm looking forward to it. Folks, please do us a favor. Smash that like button for us. I think we could easily get over 100 right now, folks. Easiest way to support the channel. And then, funny enough, the Seahawks representative.
Hey, Steezy.
What's up, Steezy?
What's up, man?
Steezy, what's going on with you, man? What's up?
Man, a lot.
Wow.
Kind of just getting back from vacation. So it's my second day back to work and everything. But it's been a while since I've seen you guys, man. What's up?
Oh, man.
How's it going, man?
Hanging out, man.
Yeah.
We were just talking the monstrosity it's been over in San Francisco with the Brandon Aiyuk situation. And you have any takes on it before we move on?
As a Seahawks fan, I love to see it. I love the chaos. I love what's about to unfold. I mean, soon I know it's gonna happen. And so kind of from the outside looking in. But you guys know what it is between the Seahawks and the Niners. I mean, anything bad that happens to them is everything good to us. And it's only a matter of time. So as soon as news is official that he's officially traded, whether it's Pittsburgh, Washington, or wherever else, there could be a random team out there. I mean, it's going to be a bunch of hoorahs over here.
It's going to be a bunch of hoorahs over here, folks. Stay tuned. Stay on to it. All right. I want to move on to the Rams because the Rams have certainly had a pretty nerve-wracking training camp thus far as losing out on a starting corner and then also with a massive scare with Puka Nacua going down with a knee injury. Last time I checked, he said that he is currently week to week. So, Jake, thoughts on some of the injuries that have been occurring during training camp? And when you look at the LA Rams, right, I love their roster, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I'm glad that Matthew Stafford was able to come back on a new revised contract. But is depth a concern to you going into the 2024 season on either side of the football? Just let us know what's going on in Rams camp, the overall sentiment. Go off.
Yeah, it's interesting, Dan, because, I think they have tons of depth, but I think the fact of the matter is they've had 5 offensive lineman injuries. I have 2 more to add that you probably aren't even aware of. They lost Jonah Jackson for, the immediate future. They lost Alaric Jackson, their left tackle, in addition to their left guard, and their right tackle, Rob Havenstein, with an ankle injury that Sean McVay didn't really make us feel too great about when he said, well, he's not out for the rest of the year. I was like, that's not something you want to hear in training camp, so to speak. But there were also 2 other injuries that came up today. Warren McClendon Jr. Was banged up, as well as rookie out of Kansas State, KT Leviston, who, coaches and fans were really excited to see. So he's also banged up. It led to them signing 3 offensive linemen today. Matt Caskey, a guy who they signed as a college free agent in 2019, was the #1 rated tackle in the UFL. So they're adding him. They're also adding Alec Lindstrom. Not quite as good as his brother Chris, but nonetheless, a camp guy that could potentially, maybe make something happen in preseason. And the big one is Connor McDermott, who did start 5 games last year at tackle for the New England Patriots. Has familiarity, of course, with offensive line coach Ryan Wendell, and also has familiarity back with his time with the Jets and Mike LaFleur. So I think the Rams really did a nice job today going out and getting 3 guys because they lost 5. So, none of these guys have been ruled out for week 1 even. But you got to be, cautious here. You got to be careful. And, from what I was told, that practice that they had, the joint practice with the Chargers, took a lot out of them. So, they're definitely excited to get these guys in there and see, what they can do. But, it hasn't just been that. You mentioned the corner, Darion Kendrick last year, he started quite a few games and, now here he is tearing his ACL. They added Jerry Jacobs to add some depth. They're really excited about Kobe Durant. Darius Williams got banged up, so we'll see with him. And Trey White, I don't have to tell you, when he's healthy, he's a great football player, but he's not always healthy. So, there are definitely some question marks, but I'll tell you right now, I think the Rams were very much expecting to go into the season with, probably a more opportunistic defense than a shutdown defense, if you will. Guys like Cameron Curl, Quentin Lake, being able to make plays in the secondary. And then, of course, up front, you have the emergence of, and they've been having great camps out of FSU, Braden Fisk, and, of course, Jared Verse. You have, Kobe Turner, who was runner-up for Defensive Rookie of the Year. And then you have Bobby Brown, who they're hoping to take another step, as well as Byron Young. So, they have a lot of talent. But I think this defense early on the season is going to be more of that opportunistic defense and less about shutting them down. And make no mistake about it, this offense is going to be the driving force for the Rams this year. I think this is a top 3 offense in football on paper. But if they can't stay healthy on the offensive line, it doesn't matter. We've already learned the hard way. It doesn't matter what they do. They're going to be in some trouble. So am I worried? No. Is there a little concern? I think it's fair to say Puka Nakua's injury doesn't concern me at all because, sources weren't concerned at all about that. So, really it just comes down the offensive line, and you just hope those guys are ready to go. But you also have to realize, anytime you give $18 million a year to a guy like Jonah Jackson, who, yes, his film is fun to watch, but he's had a hard time staying healthy, you have to be prepared for the potential consequences down the road.
And it's interesting hearing about the Rams, especially since last year they ended up accomplishing so much where nobody was really expecting a lot out of them last year. And many are considering them to be threats to the San Francisco 49ers for the NFC West. So I kind of want to move over to Jesse right now, especially with all things considered, what you've been noticing with the LA Rams this offseason. Are they a legitimate threat? What's your scale of freak out right now when it comes to the LA Rams potentially stealing the NFC West?
Yeah, I think the Rams are a good team. I'm pretty sure my record prediction for them and the 49ers were both 12-5, but I had the 49ers winning the division based off of how they performed within the division. I think the Rams are certainly a threat. I do have to say that watching some of their players go down with injury, though, it's cooled me off a little bit on them. I have to see these guys make it through the season, and every team deals with injuries, but what you don't want to deal with is a ton of them before you even get started. Jonah Jackson was supposed to help bring this offensive line to a whole new level. He's a big guy, a people mover, and it was supposed to allow them to do some interesting things that can be problematic in the run game for a team like the 49ers that might be a little bit lighter up the middle than they have in the past. But if Jonah Jackson can't stay healthy and some of these other guys along the offensive line are struggling to stay healthy, then a lot of the concerns that I had when it came to the Rams are completely out the window. So I think they've got to get things straight. As far as the team overall, Kupp, Nakua, Williams, with Stafford pulling the trigger, that's always something you should probably be concerned with. That's a team that can always compete. But if that offensive line's not right and not what I expected it to be, it's going to be really, really hard for me to just believe in them having a legitimate chance to win this division.
That's what you got on that, Steezy.
About the Rams?
Yeah, about the Rams, man. What is the likelihood that they could dethrone the San Francisco 49ers this year?
I think there's a high likelihood. I was on Jake's side last year, right? I thought that the Rams were significant threats to the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, they weren't able to get the job done against the Detroit Lions, who will be another threat in the NFC, though not in the NFC West. I think this year, as long as the offensive line is intact, which I know is a big question mark, I don't see why the Rams can't be the biggest threat, not just out of the NFC West, but in the entire NFC. We don't got to get into it, but all the weapons with the Blake Corum, I'm curious to see how Blake Corum will be integrated into that offense because Kyron Williams excelled as a workhorse last year. So it's like, there wasn't a lot of depth behind him. And so who knows what that split is going to look like. But Blake Corum he's not a joke, or he's not a bum by any means. He would have started for a lot of other teams, right? And so with Sean McVay kind of at the helm of that offense, I know he's going to use Blake Corum in a bunch of creative ways. DeMarcus Robinson, last year, who turned it up down the stretch. The Rams were fortunate to kind of bring him back on a cheap one-year deal. And so I'm curious to see, whether that success that he had towards the end of the year will continue. Defensively, Jake spoke on this. Yes, there's no more Aaron Donald, but the guys that they signed, Cameron Curl, I was mad. I wanted Cameron Curl in Seattle. And so seeing him sign with the Rams, I've been a big fan of his, for a while now. Darius Williams coming back to the Rams. He thrived in LA the last time that he was there. And so I agree with the sentiment that, they'll be more opportunistic than shut down. But I really like the Rams this year. I know right now the injuries are kind of a thing that everybody's talking about. But once they kind of set that aside, I do see them right now as the biggest threats to the Niners in the NFC.
And so what about you, Mike?
I do agree in terms of when you're talking about the NFC West in general, you kind of see as these two being up there for a reason, right? You got the San Francisco 49ers that are constantly in the playoffs, and you have the Rams that are always giving us issues as well in terms of the Cardinals. But yeah, I see them as a very good team. I'm curious to figure out how the Aaron Donald, not being there is going to affect it. Now, obviously, as a Cardinal fan, that's one of the big things I think of. I mean, obviously, Jake is more privy and knows a lot more of these defensive players than I would have. But at the end of the day, he named a lot of guys that it seems like I have no clue are there. And I'm not saying they're bad. It's just I'm just so curious to figure out how this defense is going to shake out more than anything. But I think their success is going to rely on what's going to happen with Stafford, right? Stafford was hurt last year as well. Injuries is a big, big bug, and it kind of seems to happen. And every single one of their guys that is there, Cooper Kupp has injury concerns. Kyron Williams was used as a workhorse, had injury concerns, or not injured, but had injuries prior, and then kind of a lot of their offensive weapons as well. So I'm just curious to figure out how that's going to shake out. But I mean, if they can stay healthy, unfortunately, I do see them as a potential number 2. I don't see them as a number 1. I still do think the 49ers are my favorite to win the NFC West. But they're a good team overall. I'm never going to say anything about Sean McVay. He's a really, really good coach. He'll make things work, but just the injury concerns. Can they stay healthy? That's the big thing.
Super, super interesting to see how it plays out, and certainly wishing nothing but health for each and every single team in the NFC West, because we want to see some theatrics. Shout out to everybody giving super chat, showing a little bit of love. Starting off with Dave Barclay saying, "Let's go, Jesse. Go Niners and go away, BA." Go away, Brandon Aiyuk. All right, looks like Niners fans are over it. They said, go with the Patriots. Go sign with the Panthers. We don't care. Get out of here. Jesse, did you know that we got Breida back for CMC? Question mark.
Yeah, perfect. Great. This is running back 2019. This is fantastic.
Oh, man, we would have been pumped about that signing back in the day. That's for sure. Sajid is saying NFC West record predictions. Trust me, we have that cooking up. All right, we will probably have that for our show probably in about 2 or 3 weeks prior to week 1. Folks, if you are just discovering this channel, certainly subscribe and turn on notifications because we have quite a bit planned for you this year. All right, SoCal Ram is coming in. I just want to let everyone know that at Niners won't win a Super Bowl this year either. Input, Mr. Burns, evil laugh. The window is officially closed. Check mark from our Rams fan. Already talking a little bit of trash. We love it. Thank you so much for your generosity as well. Dave Barclay, most Niner fans don't believe Niners win the Super Bowl this year. Dave Barclay is coming in. He's saying, hey, man, listen, you can't kick us while we're down. We're on your same side. I like that. And then Roger Morales, Fisk and Verse looked great at camp. D-line was getting after it. Well, I'll tell you what, based off of these super chats, man, I can just go on ahead and tell you that the hype for the season is absolutely here. And we understood that over at Roundtable Sports, and we just ended up dropping a brand new campaign merch line on Roundtable Sports. As you can see, we have Murray, we have Harrison Jr. 2024 design, which Mike is currently wearing on his head. We have the Purdy McCaffrey. We have Make the Seahawks Great Again right over here, the Seattle hat. Sitting right over there. If you guys want to make that happen. Stafford Nakua 2024. Oh, man, so many different things. Smith, Metcalf, 2024. We have it all. Link is in description in case you are trying to upgrade some of your NFL merch for the upcoming season. Man, beautiful thing. Shout out to the chat. Thank you so much for coming on in. Now, Mike, first off, we have to talk about that cotton candy burrito.
Oh,
the Arizona Cardinals.
Oh, that's terrible.
That's diabetes for $37.99 being served over there. I just wanted to troll you a little bit on that. But I feel like everybody is wondering. First off, talk to us about Marvin Harrison Jr. We saw Kyler Murray. He's not participating in the preseason whatsoever. Is there anything happening at camp right now that is showing you some sort of optimism that you might have a better season out of your Arizona Cardinals this year?
It's just as simple as saying Murray starting off from the start of the season. I don't think it was a decision from him to not play preseason. I think it's a decision from the coaching staff and probably the Cardinals organization to just not risk any injury when it comes down to Kyler Murray. Because I think obviously one of the biggest concerns when you talk about Kyler Murray as a quarterback is, can he stay healthy, right? He's got all the tools. He's got the abilities to be a good quarterback. But at the end of the day, can he stay healthy? We haven't seen a non-injured Kyler Murray throughout his career in the NFL, unfortunately. So I don't think it's really a thing that he said, oh, I don't want to play. I think Jonathan Gannon just kind of came up here. But yeah, there's a lot of optimism as Cardinal fans. Now, I'm not going to come out here and say that we have a huge fan base that agree with me, but there is a good portion that think that we can make some sort of noise. Now, also keep in mind too, like our noise is not compared to what we have up here, right? Our noise is, can we sniff the playoffs? Can we win 7, 8 games, maybe potential 9 games? And honestly, there's some Cardinal fans, including myself, that feel like we can. Now, the schedule is tough. The schedule's a tough schedule, but in order for you to be a great team or a good team, you need to beat these teams. Like you got to take advantage of the schedules in front of you, right? You can't come up here and make excuses. Oh, we had such a terrible schedule. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But in training camp, we've seen a lot of optimism. Obviously, one of the big storylines is just Marvin Harrison Jr. out there, just kind of being him, watching him catch balls from Kyler Murray. It's just a sight to see, because you can see wide receiver 1 for the future for the Arizona Cardinals. Just really exciting. It's really exciting. Now, I know we have a very underrated wide receiving core, but like Michael Wilson's going to be fully healthy. He had a pretty darn good rookie year. Unfortunately, he got hurt. We had a Greg Dortch, which maybe a lot of you guys might not know, but man, 5'7", but this man's a dog, man. He's an absolute dog. We had Zay Jones. We got Chris Moore, I believe, from the Titans. Like, we got players, and like just the philosophy's changed. Like, we're not worrying about 5'7", 5'8", everybody across the board, just speed. No, it's different. It's a different type of offense that we're running now. It's going to be primarily run. And even if it's 55 to 60%, it's going to be tote that ball, James Conner. And if it's not James Conner, then maybe Amari DeMarcado. If not, our rookie can get involved with Trey Benson. Like, we got weapons on this offensive side of the ball. It's just, we can go as far as, can Kyler Murray stay healthy? And I think adding Marvin Harrison Jr. is just, the I guess, I don't know how to describe it, just like the light that we needed, because man, he could be wide receiver 1, and I think there's just a lot of excitement for Arizona Cardinal fans now. My expectation, 8 wins, 9 wins would be cool. Yeah, I know. I've asked you guys' predictions.
Wow,
you guys all suck, but yeah, I think this Arizona Cardinal team can be very, very good if they can stay healthy, and if not, we're talking about a completely different thing on the offseason.
That is a great segue to hearing everybody else's takes on that. We just heard 8 to 9 wins from Mike at the Arizona Cardinals right here, folks. Let's read a couple more super chats here before we dive in to whether or not the other panelists feel like Mike is setting himself up for a disappointing 2024. Ruiz, SB champs, Purdy, average, praying, McCaffney, don't get hurt. Ruiz, Super Bowl champs, thank you so much. And then Dave Barclay with a $20 donation. Coming on in. Dave, you are the absolute man. Thank you so much. Good effing show. I love that you guys can collaborate, and we are all good. Normal trash talking, but appreciate the fact everyone can get together and do this. I'm ready for football. Love that Seattle hat, but let's trade Kyle. All right, man. Wow. I remember that one guy that was in here that was just bullying Norb about how much he hated Seattle.
Brother Bob. Yeah.
Yeah. We need our boy back, man. Listen, I'm sure he'll come back eventually. Yes, it was hysterical. Some Rams fan was just absolutely taking a shit on the city of Seattle for the longest time. All right, Moose coming in. You are not ready for the Seattle defense, man, with the Flames. Don't worry. We're going to be talking about the Seahawks here shortly. I promise you that. Edwin is coming on in saying, what's everyone's most memorable play of the GOAT AD number 99? I'll start. It's definitely when we brought down Jimmy during the NFC Championship. All right, real quick, most memorable moment. We'll start off with Jake.
Super Bowl. Okay, when he tosses down Burrow and Samaje Perine tries to grab it and it falls to the ground, and my GOAT, Al Michaels, forgot that he was calling the Super Bowl. It's like, it's an incomplete pass. I'm like, that's the Super Bowl. They just won. Show some emotion.
Oh, man. Listen, and you know what? I'm not going to make the rest of the panelists tell their memory because it's probably only been pain. So I'm not going to make them go through with that once again.
It was definitely the practice that he wielded his helmet around like a weapon. That would have to be it.
Love seeing Jimmy go down.
Mike's is definitely where he pushes Kyler down like he was on a swing and he just pushed him off it.
So what I was thinking was in the playoff game where he had to literally heave the ball just like it was playing in some other sport, not football, but he was like, yeah, that's that.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
Was that the Taylor Rapp pick six?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was a pick. Yeah, it was a pick six because he just that one. Yep.
That's funny.
Shout out Taylor Rapp for sure. Jake, all right, listen, we just heard Mike say that the Arizona Cardinals have done enough to win 8 to 9 games this year in 2024. Give me your thoughts on this.
I have no issue with what Mike just said. I think the Cardinals can definitely get that third spot in the division. I think them and Seattle are definitely going to, battle each other there. And I think there's a chance that this entire division is above 500. I mean, I think this is one of the better divisions in football. And I mean, when you look at the quarterbacks, it's not hard to see that. Brock Purdy is a great quarterback. Matthew Stafford is one of the best quarterbacks in football. Geno Smith is a very good quarterback. And I would say Kyler Murray is a very good quarterback. I think the thing that gets me excited about Kyler Murray, just from a football perspective, is that, he, for the first time in his career last year, was really playing the quarterback position. There wasn't any sort of, college type of looks. I mean, he had to make NFL reads and had to make NFL throws for the first time in his career, in my opinion. And I thought he really showed that he can do that. There were some moments last year where I was like, Kyler Murray could be an absolute problem in the NFC West. And, they just have to get him a receiver. And then, of course, Marvin Harrison Jr. fell into their lap, who is going to be great for them. They have guys like Greg Dortch, who people have forgotten about, but have played, a decent role. They added Zay Jones. So, I mean, I really have no issue. I'm really excited for Trey McBride. I think he's going to take a huge step forward, maybe even a top 5 tight end by the end of the season. And I have a bone to pick with Mike because he listed Trey Benson third. I think Trey Benson has everything you want in a starting running back. James Conner is an absolute baller, and he is one of the heart and souls of this team. But I think also having Trey Benson and just that long speed, the explosion, he's really the total package as long as he holds on to the football. And I think those two are really going to be great in tandem. DeMarco's not a bad player, but come on, Trey Benson's definitely a better one coming into the year.
I get some kind of real quick. Yeah, I agree. I want James Conner and then Trey Benson to be the future for us. It's just DeMarco's getting so much reps.
Is he?
So much reps, and it's really scares me. The fact that he might be that number 2 guy. But honestly, I'm rooting for Trey Benson. I want Trey Benson.
Yeah.
It's what you got on that, Jesse.
Well, I think the Cardinals have about as much of a chance as winning 9 games as you do buying a Marvin Harrison Jr. that's officially licensed by the NFL right now. I don't think there's any chance that that's going to happen. I think the Cardinals are a year away from being a year away. I do like what the Cardinals are doing overall. I think they're building a really good foundation. They've got a ton of draft picks coming up. So I think they're headed in the right direction. I also think Kyler's a pretty good player. There's some things to be desired there, but overall, I think he's better than most people want to give him credit for. Him coming off of an injury, second year in this offense, I think he's going to be better for it. I just think realistically, they're a 6, maybe a 7-win team. I think next year they're going to be fighting potentially for a playoff spot, though, if they continue to draft well. I do.
Subscribe to the channel for a chance to win a Marvin Harrison Jr. jersey. All right, folks. Make it all happen, man. Look at that. Where is Brother Bob? Hey, SoCal. We don't know. If you know where Brother Bob is, please let us know.
Oh, man.
Steezy, the chances of the Arizona Cardinals winning 8 to 9 games, we saw 2 very opposite takes.
I'm kind of leaning towards Jake's side again. The Cardinals last year, they showed a lot of feistiness. They showed a lot of fight. Remember, they beat the Dallas Cowboys with Joshua Dobbs at quarterback. And then, like Jesse was saying, I mean, they've built a great foundation. I think with what Jonathan Gannon has done with this team, they're going to fight again this year. Mike, real quick, how many games did the Cardinals win last year?
4.
4. Okay. So I think right now, if I had to put money on it, I'd give him 6 to 7. So I guess right around what Jesse was saying, but going back to what Jake was saying, I mean, you look at the weapons, right? Michael Wilson started to turn it on down the stretch. Trey McBride was a volume hog for Kyler Murray. He's only going to continue to get better. He was a second-round pick for a reason a couple of years ago. Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he's going to step onto the scene as a bona fide number 1 right away. We could see Jamar Chase-like numbers in year 1. Defensively, I don't know if you have as many impact players, and so maybe there's a little bit more to work, or maybe there's not as much to work with on defense. But again, Jonathan Gannon, a defensive-minded head coach, he's going to get more out of those guys than the individual players might suggest. But they'll definitely fight as far as competing for the playoffs. not that, but I think when you win 2 to 3 games more than you did the year prior, I think it's still somewhat of a success. This team is still very, very young. Kyler Murray is a very talented quarterback, and you give him weapons to work with. He has running backs. He has receivers. Maybe the offensive line isn't what it could be, but the future is bright. And so if they end up winning games this year that they have no business winning, that wouldn't surprise me because they did that last year. But as far as making the playoffs and winning 8 to 9 games, I wouldn't go there. But 6 to 7 games, more than feasible.
Well, look at that, folks. We are all going to have our answers here in just a couple of weeks as the regular season approaches. And one organization that probably has the most questions surrounding it is the one that just so happened to go through the most changes this offseason, starting with their head coach. Steezy, I'm not going to lie to you. Haven't really been paying attention a lot to what has been happening during training camp. But has there been anything that is giving you a feeling that the Seattle Seahawks could potentially pick up where they left off, maybe see a slight improvement now that you have a brand new head coach at the helm? What are the Seahawks looking like in camp?
Well, first, I just want to say, and I did come on late, so I'm not sure if you guys talked about this, but Connor Williams signed with the Seattle Seahawks. And I think, he shores up what was arguably the biggest weakness on that entire Seattle roster. It was the interior of that offensive line. And so I know he's coming off a torn ACL. And so to kind of put your hopes on a guy coming off a torn ACL, it might seem foolish, but his agent, according to Drew Rosenhaus, did talk about how he should be ready to go come week 1. And so I don't know if that's likely to happen, but I think all signs point to him playing at least by week 2, week 3. I don't think he's going to miss too much time. And so I think with him kind of coming in and signing with the Seahawks, it was down to Seattle or Baltimore. And so that's huge news. Again, addresses arguably the biggest weakness on that Seahawks roster. Geno Smith was hurt, but he's back. He's back practicing. And we see DK Metcalf dominating. Reek Woolen has been dominating. Byron Murphy has been everything as advertised. Mike McDonald, he has talked about how, it's still taking time for some of the guys to kind of develop within the system and kind of learn the scheme and whatnot. But the talent is there. The DB room, Devin Witherspoon, who should have been in the NFL top 100. I don't know what the players were thinking. Julian Love, fresh off an extension. Coming off a Pro Bowl season, he's been having a great camp. I think aside from the linebacking core, there's not really too much to be worried about. I think right now there's a lot of optimism. I think that offense is going to be a lot better than what people are expecting. I think it's going to be a little closer to what we saw during the 2022 season, where Seattle was top 10 in the NFL in points, when Geno was arguably a top 10 quarterback in the league and route to winning comeback player of the year. The offensive line looks much improved. Coaching staff, I think, especially offensively, is going to work wonders for this football team. The last couple of years, the Seahawks have finished dead last in the NFL in offensive snaps played, while leading the NFL in most defensive snaps played. And so this offense just has not had a lot of opportunities, especially when you're the only team in the NFL playing less than 1,000 snaps. That's I don't know. And then you've had one of the worst red zone, one of the worst third down offenses in all of football these last couple of years, despite having all that talent at receiver, at running back. To me, I don't expect that to happen again. And I do believe that Pete Carroll and the last coaching staff held this team back to a degree, especially offensively. And so just seeing with the new coaching staff, both offense and defense, what they've been doing with the players. Jake Bobo, a player who's absolutely stood out, this training camp. He's making dominant catches, one after another, one-handed catches one after another. The running back room with K9, he's gone bald. He's gone full-on Adrian Peterson mode. And so I'm real curious to see what K9's going to do behind, a much improved offensive line, better play calling. I think right now there's a lot of optimism. There's a lot of optimism in the air. For the most part, there aren't a lot of injuries, knock on wood. And so the vibes are great here in Seattle. And, man, I can't wait for the first preseason game this Saturday.
Now, let me ask you this, okay? Geno Smith. I heard some take on the internet saying that he was a product of Dave Canales as the QB coach during that year where he came back, he didn't write back. Then he ended up going over to Tampa Bay. And then with Baker Mayfield, surprise, surprise, had a comeback season going into it. With so many changes with the head coach, would you put Geno Smith on your quote-unquote hot seat this year in 2024? If he doesn't go out there and he has more of a season like he did last year, would you be keeping an eye out on the draft board or potentially moving on from him if he doesn't reach a certain pedestal in 2024?
I think you kind of had to. For the most part, this is one of the youngest rosters in the NFL. And while he might seem like a veteran at the age of 34, 35, as far as playing time, he's not, right? As far as like starting experience, he's not a veteran. As far as age, he is. And so because of his age, I'd say he kind of is on the hot seat. And, I talked about the offensive line being much improved. The defense should be much improved. The weapons are still intact. And so he has the support system. He has the talent, and he has the coaching staff around him to kind of, put up a year on par with 2022. And so as long as he's healthy, and if he's not performing, I think he absolutely should be on the hot seat. Just because you look at, next year's crop of quarterbacks, I don't see a future superstar, but you see a bunch of different quarterback prospects, you could potentially choose from. And so, yes, if he doesn't perform, he's absolutely on the hot seat.
And so what do you think about that, Mike? Is Geno the guy over there, or do you think that he's and the Seahawks should definitely be looking into the quarterback market next year in the draft?
Yeah, let me just say that I'm so glad that the Atlanta Falcons just completely pulled a crazy thing in the draft, because Penix was a real possibility for them over there, and I like the idea that they're still rolling with Geno Smith, and I'm actually very fascinated that most people think, or not most people, but a lot of people think that the Seahawks are in a better position than the Arizona Cardinals, and I get you guys got the weapons, but Geno Smith, man, he's just here. I feel like he's not it. He's had a really good year, and I'll give him kudos to that, but I think it is time. I think it's going to be time, and we're going to be finding out here when you guys are fourth in the division, and then you're going to be probably having a really high draft pick. It's going to be one of the situations where you kind of have to move off of Geno Smith. He's just not the guy. He's not going to be the future for the Seattle Seahawks. He was made for a bridge guy, and that's just kind of what it is.
I got it. What about you, Jake? What do you think? Should Seattle be keeping their options open?
I mean, I think when you look at Seattle this year, I actually like a lot of what they did. I actually wanted to mention something Steezy said, like the linebackers didn't feel so great. I actually really like what they did, going out and getting Tyrell Dodson. I actually really like him. Dan, I think I remember you not liking him. So yeah, we're a little different there. But I like what they did. I thought they added some pieces this year. I mean, obviously, I've always said Seattle feels like that team that just has a bunch of names that, like, wow, if they really ever develop, that could be a problem. Like Derek Hall, for instance, a second rounder that, hasn't really emerged yet. I mean, he was, just drafted in 2023. So, the jury's still out on him. Boye Mafe. I almost said Moye Bafe. Boye Mafe had like 7 sacks in a row. I think it was 7 or 8 sacks in a row, for games. So we saw like what he could do last year. They have guys like Uchenna Nwosu, who I think a lot of people forgot about, was playing really good ball before he went down with an injury. And I mean, you already mentioned, Reek Woolen, Devin Witherspoon, all those guys. I am curious, about Darrell Taylor, the former, second rounder in 2020. Where is he at? If he's ever going to get a chance to, potentially be one of the guys there. But Byron Murphy was a huge ad for them. Make no mistake about it. I can tell you right now, the Rams really wanted him. They probably would have chosen him if he had fallen to 19, and they did try to trade up. The Seahawks were not actually expecting him to be there. So when he fell into their lap, they're like, okay, yeah, let's go ahead with that. I think when you look at this Seahawks team, though, I just mentioned the defense, because the offense, it's like we already know, they have a plug and play quarterback. Okay, he's not the best in the league, but he's a good quarterback. And, I think it's kind of a reminder here. Geno is good enough to win a Super Bowl if everyone around him plays at the level that they're capable of. I'm not saying Seattle will win a Super Bowl. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying if you got Kenneth Walker, playing at the level that, we know he can play at, and he didn't get hurt, and you had DK and Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Jake Bobo and Laviska Shenault and everybody, really picking up the pace in the wide receiver room, and Noah Fant had a breakout year. And, you look at the offensive line, which is, much improved. Now you have some guys on the defensive side with a great defensive mind. Jesse and I, it's funny because I just mentioned earlier in the show that I wasn't really worried about Aiyuk. I I will say this. I get way more worried about having coaches in divisions over players. And Jesse and I were not exactly thrilled with the idea of Mike Macdonald going to the Seattle Seahawks. As any rational football fan, anyone that knows ball knows, Mike Macdonald did wonders for that defense over there, with the Ravens. So I would not count this team out. I also wouldn't necessarily say they're going to, win the division or even come in second, but they're going to be a hard out every single day, every single week. I really think, Ryan Grubb, Mike Macdonald, Aiden Durd, who never gets talked about, but I thought that was a great hire there from the Dallas Cowboys. I think they got the players, and I think they have the coaches to potentially get back to the playoffs. And, I think that's really all you could ask for. And I don't care who you get at head coach. Anytime you go through anything like this where you get rid of, kind of an end of an era, getting rid of Pete Carroll and, seeing Shane Waldron leave and all of that, it's like, all right, now you kind of have to temper expectations a little bit. This is exciting. It's a new chapter. But with a new chapter comes some growing pains and things. And I do think that will be there. But I do think Seattle is going to be a competitive team every week. And that's all Seahawks fans should be asking for in year one of Mike Macdonald's tenure.
That's what you got, Jesse.
Yeah, I think Geno Smith is a bridge quarterback. But I also think that with Grubb, it's the perfect pairing. I mean, I look at the offense they have in Seattle, and I look at what he had in Washington. And I think player for player, he really can make it work. Skill set for skill set. It's very, very similar to what he had with the Huskies. So I think that offense can be pretty good. I also look at the trenches. If you improve in the trenches, you're probably going to improve overall as a team. Yeah. They got way better in the trenches on both sides. A lot of people talk about the Seattle Seahawks offensive line and talk about it like it's one of the worst in the league. I think they were probably a mid-tier offensive line, around 15th best or so. With Connor Williams, I think they're probably a top 10 offensive line, if healthy, of course. I think there's a lot of talent on the offensive line. And then they drafted even more. They might have gotten the best guard in this year's draft. So I think Seattle is one of those teams that are interesting. I pegged them to have 10 wins, and I think other than Norb, I was the only one that was even close to that in this division. I was also very high on them last year, to be fair, but I didn't realize how bad that coaching staff really was. I think player for player, they can match up with most teams in the league. I think their secondary is extremely good, and now they've got a coaching staff to match. Last year, that coaching staff was the most vanilla, boring coaching staff I have ever seen. It looked like a 1960s offense. They didn't do anything special on defense. What they showed you pre-snap is exactly what you got post-snap. That is not going to be the case with Macdonald. That is not going to be the case with Grubb. I think this team is one of the more interesting teams in the league, and I wouldn't be shocked if they make a nice little playoff run this year. I wouldn't.
Folks, very interesting. Maybe we have a sleeper on our hands this year.
The NFC West is the most interesting division. Like, I mean, if you really think about it, there's so much up there. Well, I'll give your AFC East. There's a lot of different variables there, but in the NFC, I mean, what division has, four good quarterbacks that you trust to win ball games? Like, we've seen Geno win when push came to shove at the end of games. We saw Brock Purdy have a come from behind win. We saw him win the big game. We saw Geno come back. We've seen Kyler come back, and obviously Matthew Stafford. So, find me another division in the NFC where you have four capable quarterbacks, because it's all projection with guys like Caleb Williams, So and then you look at like the Panthers. We literally learned nothing about Bryce Young in his first year. So yeah, I think this is the only division that has that.
Folks, it's going to be interesting. And you know what? We will be right back after a brief message from our sponsor. So now you'll probably notice that half of our representatives at Roundtable Sports always have their undies in a bunch when it comes to their favorite NFL team. And listen, I'm sure that they're getting sick of that feeling where they're feeling a wedgie rather than a warm hug. Maybe they want to say goodbye to uncomfortable chafing and hello to the softest underwear they will ever wear. Well, folks, let me introduce you to Shinesty.com, the underwear company that is here to revolutionize the underwear game. Let's be honest, life is too short for boring undies. These are so soft, y'all. You won't even realize you're wearing them. With the moisture-wicking technology and a perfect fit that never rides up, you'll quite literally feel like your balls are floating on a cloud all day long. And look at some of these absolute designs. And get this, folks, if you use our code at checkout, you can get an additional 15% off your order, RTS15. Remember, supporting our sponsors is a way to support us over at Roundtable Sports. So stop neglecting your balls and give them the gift of Shinesty underwear. Link is in description.
Nothing more
Nice.
American than an eagle around your junk, right?
So they have like one that has a hammer. They have one that has a hammer like right on it, so like you can disappoint the ladies all the way until the last second.
Oh my!
Oh man, look at that, baby! Look at that, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the NFC West Roundtable, folks. After this episode, we're going to record the quarterback rankings for each and every single team within this division. It will probably be released around Thursday, so do make sure you subscribe and turn on those bell notifications. Let's go around the panel so everyone can say their goodbyes, starting off with Jesse. What you got?
Man, I'm excited for this season. I'm excited for what this channel can do and grow. Excited to be doing shows weekly with these gentlemen. The NFC West is going to be a lot of fun, and more so than anything, King Lowski, I am so excited for a win week 1. Cannot wait. The Jets also suck.
Whoa.
Oh, shit.
Whoa, man. Listen, have you ever tuned into the AFC's Roundtable when he calls in?
Yeah, he's great.
Oh, dude, he's the man. Jake, what you got, man? What you got?
I mean, I echo Jesse, except I actually kind of like the Jets, so not going to say anything like that. But no, I appreciate each and every one of you for watching us, and the people that followed me over on my channel came over here to watch this. Appreciate you guys. Dan, appreciate you hosting as always. I'm glad to be linked up with Mike, Steezy, and of course my guy Jesse. Miss Norb, but obviously we'll see Norb when we see him. But this is always a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing this last year when this random Dan Mitchell, who I'd never heard of before, was in my DMs like, hey, do you want to? Yeah, I had never heard
Whoa, dude.
And then you were like, hey, do you want to do this show? And I was like, yeah, it's just like, let's do it. So I'm glad I did it. And yeah, Dan, I definitely, I think everyone has heard of you now. So,
Yes, easy. What's going on, man? Final words.
I just want to say, thank you guys for having me. I'm just filling in for Nora, but I love filling in for him. You guys are a bunch of fun. I always have a blast with you guys. So everybody out there, if you aren't already subscribed, man, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, drop a comment, keep tuning in. We're gonna keep bringing on the heat. Whether I'm here or not, the heat's gonna keep coming. And so, shout out to Dan, like Jake said. Shout out to Dan for hosting. You're great at what you do, the content that you put out. I mean,
Thanks,
man, you a hustler, as is everybody on this panel. And I think that's definitely, one thing we all have in common. And you always want to surround yourself with like-minded people, like-minded individuals, right? And I truly feel like I'm with the right guys. And so, nothing but peace and blessings, nothing but love. I'm looking forward to the next time I hop on because I love chopping it up with you guys. And man, cheers to a great season, because before we know it, week 1's gonna be here. So,
absolutely,
Well said.
Mike, what you got, man?
I mean, it's a good opportunity to really kind of learn from, the best at what they do and, who they cover in their teams. It's really cool to kind of go in there because obviously, there's a lot of players that I don't know of. You just know those big players. So it's really cool to kind of catch up with everybody here. And I think we're all, I don't know, there's a level of respect, but there's also a level of shit talking, which I absolutely love. And I just cannot wait for this NFC West to go back, just as a general. I'm not even talking about as a Cardinal fan. I want this division to go back onto the map in terms of having every one of these mother effing 4 teams being darn good. And of course, we as a Cardinal, we got to pull our weight. And I'm just so glad. I'm so excited for 2024.
Oh man, last couple of super chats and we will wrap. Brother Bob is driving, but he's coming. Oh, we didn't see him, and he's here. Now the show can begin. BB the champ. Look at that. Jets won't catch their breath all year after game 1. Dave Barclay is coming in, letting them know. And then last but not least, Leslie Frazier is also there as an assistant coach. providing invaluable grit and experience. Seattle is up and coming from a Buffalo Bills fan. Don't be too excited about that. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. We will see you next week.